Good morning, folks. Today's lesson is going to be on murder, which is, I guess it is the most serious crime that exists, and this is reflected in the sentencing. So what we're going to do is just go through the basics of the offence. I'm going to do a separate AO1 video which will summarise the law, which you need whether it's an essay question or a scenario question. And then I'm going to do a third video on murder, which is AO3. This is evaluation. So if you got a 25-mark essay on murder, you would need AO1 plus AO3, but those will be two separate videos after this. Okay, so first of all, what is murder? Well, our definition of murder is the unlawful killing of a reasonable creature in being under the Queen's peace with malice aforethought. So we're going to go through what each of those parts means. Before we do that, just a couple of points. First of all, there's no Murder Act. That definition, so unlawful killing of a reasonable creature in being under the Queen's peace with malice aforethought, that comes from common law. So it's evolved through a series of cases over time. There are issues obviously with that, in that judges making law, it's undemocratic. However, that definition has stuck for hundreds of years. Now, the sentence is mandatory life sentence. This means a judge has no other choice. You have to get a life sentence for murder. So what happens is the judge will set a tariff, which is a minimum number of years that you have to serve in prison before you are eligible for parole. Now, if you are an adult, so if you are over 18, that minimum tariff starts at 15 years. If you are under 18, that minimum tariff starts at 12 years. If, for example, you were sentenced as an adult to 20 years in prison, and then let's say you are eligible for parole and you get out of prison, you are then on licence for the rest of your life. So a lot of the general public are like, oh, life means 25 years. Wrong. Starting point 15 years as an adult. Also, a lot of people say, but life doesn't mean life. Again, wrong, because you are on licence for the rest of your life. So if you're out of prison, you're on licence, and if you commit any other crime, if it's a robbery, if it's a theft, you could then go straight back, and you probably will actually go straight back to prison. So 15 years for adults, 12 years starting point for people under 18. Definitely don't murder a police officer or a prison officer. Minimum starting tariff, 30 years. It's an indictable offence, so that's the most serious category. Remember, you've got three categories: indictable, triable either way, and summary. Indictable have to be heard in the Crown Court, and obviously if you plead not guilty, there will then be a jury. So with any crime, if you remember, we said let's always go through the actus reus first and then through the mens res. So the actus reus of murder is the unlawful killing of a reasonable creature in being under the Queen's peace. So taking those points, I haven't got a whiteboard, I really want to write stuff up. Taking those points individually, first of all, unlawful. This just means not lawful, so i.e. not legal. And you're like, well, who can legally kill? Well, some people can legally kill. Doctors, police, in the army, those people acting in self-defense, you are allowed to kill. That doesn't mean doctors, can go around Harold Shipman style and kill people. That's still murder. The cases that I tend to use for lawful or unlawful killing, I mean, there are a variety of cases. So if you've been taught other cases or you want to use other cases, go for it, that's fine. But there are so many, we have to cut them down. So the case of Martin, local to us, Tony Martin, Norfolk farmer, two burglars broke in to his farmhouse and he shot them, and one of them died. Now, his issue was that he was trying to claim self-defense. If the danger has already passed, you cannot have self-defense as a defence. And Tony Martin's issue was that the burglars were leaving the property when he shot them. So it was not self-defence. However, you can kill in self-defence. So if he was successful with that defence, he would have had a full defence and it would have been a lawful killing. He actually later in prison was diagnosed with a personality disorder, and murder was reduced to manslaughter because of diminished responsibility, which we will look at later on. But you can lawfully kill in self-defence, but Tony Martin, it was excessive force and the danger had gone. Another good example of an unlawful, although lawful killing is the case of Rie. It's a really sad case, and we will look at this when we study necessity. But Rie, you have conjoined twins who were born in that state, and the weaker twin was taking everything from the stronger twin, so using up all the oxygen supply and I guess all the organs and things. So doctors had to make a decision. The parents couldn't decide. Doctors had to decide, if we do nothing, both twins are going to die. Or if we try and do the operation where we separate them, we know the weaker twin is going to die. So doctors thought, hang on a minute, if we know that's going to happen, and it does happen, technically that could be murder. So they went to court to try and seek a declaration to see, can we please perform this operation when we know that the weaker twin is going to die? And the courts decided that they could do that. And we'll come back to that case when we do necessity. So the point really is that doctors can lawfully kill if it's in the patient's best interest. Now, so that's the unlawful bit. Killing. Obviously, for murder, somebody has to die, it goes without saying. So you have to prove, remember, beyond a reasonable doubt, or they now say if you are sure. So you have to be sure that the defendant caused the victim's death. These are the normal rules of causation, factual causation, but for test. So, but for the defendant's actions, the end result would not have happened. I use the case of White for this. This is the man who tried to poison his mother, but she died of a heart attack. So there was no factual causation. You've then got legal causation. So did the defendant play a significant part in the end result? So here, death. Did the defendant play a significant part in the death? The case that you can use, Kimsey. So Kimsey said significant means more than a slight and trifling link, i.e. more than minimal. So legal causation, Kimsey, you have to play more than a minimal part in the death. The next bit of causation, there must be no intervening acts that break the chain of causation. Couple of examples, the thin skull rule. So the case of Blau. Blau stabbed a Jehovah's Witness and they refused a blood transfusion. But the thin skull rule says take your victim as you find them. Other intervening acts, you could say Malcherik and Steele, where more than one person is involved in the death, and what could you say about that? But doctors switching off a life support machine, that won't break the chain of causation. But bad medical treatment, actually another case you could talk about is Jordan. If it's really bad medical treatment, it will break the chain of causation, as it did in Jordan. So that's the unlawful killing. It can be a positive act, so stabbing somebody. Equally, it can be an omission. So if you deliberately starved someone to death, like they did in Gibbons and Proctor, that is murder. Now, you have to kill a human being, a reasonable creature in being. And the question is, who is a human being? So if you stab a pregnant woman and the fetus dies, now a fetus is not a human being. You would be charged with GBH for the stabbing and possibly child destruction, which sounds horrible. But the point is, a fetus is not a human being. So just remember that. AG Ref said a fetus is not a human being. You have to be independent from the mother, i.e. expelled from the womb. Some lovely phrases here. But you have to be independent from the mother in order to be classed as a human being. So that's kind of where life begins, when you're expelled from the womb. The other end is, well, if you're brain dead, are you a human being? The answer is no. So the case of Bland, it's to do with the Hillsborough disaster, and we will talk more about this in the lessons. But Tony Bland was a 96 victim of Hillsborough, the football disaster. Don't buy the Sun. And they, doctors had to decide whether to switch off the life support machine and whether it would be killing of a human being, but they said because he was in a vegetative state, he was not a human being. So being brainstem dead, you're not a human being. And then the final bit of the actus reus is it has to happen under the Queen's peace. So this just simply means not in wartime. So during a peaceful time, at the moment, for example, obviously if it's not a queen and it's king, it's under the King's peace. So that's the actus reus. Mens rea, malice aforethought. What the hell does that mean? So malice aforethought means either intention to kill, express malice, or intention to cause serious harm, GBH, which is implied malice. Now, I would define intention at this stage. I would say Mohan, a desire to bring about the consequences. Remember direct intent, okay, so what you directly want to happen. Also, you've got indirect intent. So if the defendant foresees the end result as virtually certain, so if the defendant foresees death or serious injury as virtually certain, that can be intent, okay. And that's the case of Woolen. He was the man, stupid man, who threw his baby into a pram and missed. So Woolen, was death or serious injury virtually certain? Yes, he had intent. The other thing just to bear in mind is you don't have to intend to kill. As we said, you can intend to cause serious injury. I'd use the case of Vickers to do with that. And this is a man, Mr. Vickers, broke into a shop and the old lady in there was deaf, and then he hit her and he killed her, and he said he tried to claim, oh, it's not murders, I only intended serious injury, and they were like, yep, well that's enough for murder. So malice aforethought, intent to kill, or intent to cause serious injury. So those are the main points of murder. Okay, so that's murder in under 15 minutes. And as I said, what I will do is a summary AO1 video at some stage, and then we will do a discussion video of the AO3. So I hope that's helped a bit. There are other cases in the textbook. If you want to use any others, let me know, ask me whether that's a relevant case. But those are the cases that this year I am choosing to use. So I will see you for the AO1 video in due course. Bye!